This episode has very sensitive topics, is for mature audiences only, and contains depictions of various forms of trauma. Viewer discretion advised.
I was at his house confessing because I was very desperate. This was probably the second or third time. I felt like this was kind of this special thing where I'm this really brave girl. I was being honest, but I was also being taken advantage of. For me, with him, it was never enough to just be like, we crossed a line, I'm sorry. He needed to hear the details about what position. I didn't even know like what an orgasm or climax was at that age. I think it was 15 or 16. It just went on for years. You know, we became close and we would text. I didn't know that all of those boyfriends coercing me, the bishop exploiting me, it was kind of a normal feeling to me. Weirdly, it felt kind of similar. Like it felt violating, but I guess I didn't realize I'd been violated for so long. I think that's kind of why it can happen more to girls that have been abused. I was responsible for this somehow. As young girls and young women, they very much teach you that if you make a mistake, it's your fault because why'd you let it get there? I had my parents come upstairs and I told them what happened. And my dad said, you shouldn't have been there in the first place and you know you shouldn't have been drinking. It hurt really, really, really bad. And I never really trusted my dad again after that. He just viewed me differently because in his mind I had had sex. And I think for a lot of men, they don't know how to rationalize that sexual assault can happen without someone being like violently hurt. No, I feel like I deserved it. I felt like it was God's punishing me for what I did. But that's over years and years and years of being taught that you are worthless if you keep doing this. And so my brain's like, why do you keep doing this? You know not to do it, so why do you keep doing it? All of that pain that I went through confessing the bishop, I was doing that so I could get a temple marriage and go on a mission. I wasted the first fucking 18 years of my life.
Hey, my name is Shalise Ansola, and this is Cults to Consciousness, where we discuss leaving high-demand religions or organizations and finding healing and independence through awareness and true individual sovereignty. If you're only listening on the podcast apps and you would like to see our faces, please go to our YouTube channel at Cults to Consciousness. It's so amazing when you guys interact with the posts. It's truly the best way to support the podcast. Liking, commenting, leaving those words of encouragement for our guests means so much to them. They are real people, and they do read the comments. And it also helps tell the algorithm that you like the video and other people might too, and it sends it out even more. So we really appreciate you guys being here. And so today's guest, she reached out to us through our Jot form. We do have something that you can fill out in our About section. If you would like to be on the show, you can just write a little blurb about yourself, and we do our best to go through all of those. We do get so many submissions, so please don't feel bad if we're unable to respond. But she reached out to us through that. For those who aren't familiar, if you haven't watched the channel before, we do frequently talk about the fundamentalist sects of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, where they have multiple wives, even incestuous wives. There are so many different factions and breakoffs. Today, though, we are speaking on the main Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the one that the Book of Mormon musical is based on, the one that sends out missionaries 2 by 2, the one that I grew up in. It's called the Brighamite branch because he's the one who settled Utah. So no polygamy in this one, at least not currently. And it's huge worldwide, millions of members. That's the one we're focusing in on today. So since I'm from mainstream Mormonism as well, I definitely had some thoughts on her story. So specifically, we're talking about clergy abuse within the bishop, exploiting a young child, and we'll get into what that means, all the details. So thanks so much for joining us, Taylor.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Yes, I can hear everything, and I got you.
You're so nervous? Don't be nervous.
I am nervous.
Easy.
Once you started explaining that, and just like the way you phrase it, I just almost started crying immediately, which I was not expecting. Because I was able to tell you my story yesterday, and I didn't cry at all. I've told it so many times, but I don't know. It feels super real right now.
You know what? And that's okay. And it's okay that you're being honest and vulnerable about that right now, because it is a real thing for people, and it helps people understand that even though you think you may be over something, it just may hit you in a different way the next time you tell it. And that's okay too, because we're human, and that's part of the healing process. There are ups and downs and swirls, and just when you think you've got a handle on it, sometimes it'll come at you from a different way. So that's totally okay. And just know that if you need to take any breaks during this, you're more than welcome to. I think we should just start off with a little bit of where you grew up. Did you grow up in Texas or are you just currently there now?
Yeah, so I can actually start from like the beginning of my parents' marriage because I think it will make more sense. They met in college. My mom went on her mission, and she's like a year older than my dad. And it really pushed my dad to go. He was not raised Mormon, but his cousins were, and like his extended family for quite a while, like a couple generations, I'm pretty sure. I think they were converted in like Norway and then moved to the US. And that's like kind of my dad's side. But his nuclear family, they were not religious really growing up. And it's so funny when I say that, I like can't imagine what that would be like. So my dad, when he met my mom, I think he was just extremely smitten in 19. And he went on his mission to a Spanish speaking country. And we ended up as a family moving there for a few years when I was really little. So when me and my older sister were born, my mom would come to the US to give birth, I guess, even though we would have had dual citizenship. I don't know. She was worried about the doctors, and I'm sure that's like a big fear for every new mom. She had me and my older sister in the US, and then we'd go back to the Spanish speaking country. And I'm not saying the country just for like privacy reasons, not because I'm like, being weird. Technically, my first language was Spanish. My heritage is all white European, but that was a really big part of my life. And especially growing up in Texas, once we moved back to Texas, I was probably 2.5 to 3. By that time, I was in such a specific zone where I just didn't want to speak Spanish anymore because all of my friends were speaking English at school. And like, I was like, Mom, I don't want to do this anymore. And she'd be like, no, speak back to me in Spanish. And I would be like, no, and it's a huge fight, whatever. I wish that I could speak it fluently. I can understand it a little bit, which is helpful in Texas. Growing up, I am the third of four, and there's 3 girls and 1 boy. It's important to know that it was a boy, girl, 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 because it was very much so like my brother was like kind of his own island because he was the firstborn. And then when the girls were born, it was very different. You could say I was in a much more patriarchal family than most Mormons, honestly. I don't know. It felt that way. It definitely felt that way where there were very strict rules for what a girl does and what a boy does. And it has been really catastrophic to my life because I am a very expressive person. I always have been and just like to try out new stuff, try to do whatever I want. And I didn't really have that option. And I felt very stifled as an older child, maybe a young adolescent. As a kid, I didn't even care. I've always been very like go with the flow. Like I was the third, so I've been the peacemaker. It's funny, I'm sure a lot of other girls that grew up in the church feel the same way, being labeled as this peacemaker as if it was this beautiful thing that God had given you. But it was just the role that I had to play in the family to get any attention. I didn't even realize that till like last year. It's funny how like I've been going to therapy since I was 15, but for 5 years, those therapists were Mormon. I didn't get anything done. Um, yeah, it's funny. Growing up, I had a lot of friends in the church. There actually are a lot of Mormons in Texas, like a lot. Like where I grew up, our ward, we had 3 wards that met at our church building, and each ward was at least 150 people. It was they were all good sized wards. The stakes, though, were like really vast and spread out. I mean, Houston is huge, but like, I had a lot of friends that were Mormon. I also had a lot of non-Mormon friends. I know a lot of people that grew up in Utah, they don't really have that same experience. And I think that the effect is that when you are Mormon in a non-Mormon place, you feel kind of like righteously indignant or like you're special or like the things that you're doing are even more important because you're surrounded by evil and everyone's trying to tempt you. And I was always really pulled 2 ways because I loved my friends very dearly and my non-member friends. And I only dated non-member guys. I didn't find the guys in my ward attractive. I mean, that has something to say about just like confidence and all of that has to play a lot in bodily autonomy and all that stuff. The guys that I dated that weren't Mormon, they just seemed like smarter or maybe just less controlled, and we had so much more fun. Basically, that's kind of how it worked out. I went to church every single Sunday. I went to every Wednesday night. I did seminary for 3 years, and then my senior year, I got so anxious. In Texas, it's early morning seminary, so I had to get up at 5:30 or earlier. No, I had to leave the house at 5:30 to get to seminary by 6 a.m. and then go to school for 8 hours after that.
Yeah.
Keep in mind extracurriculars like choir and cross country, and then just homework. It was really exhausting, and I couldn't keep up with it. And I just felt it was just so apparent that nothing I did was ever going to be enough. And as a kid, I didn't understand that because I thought my parents were just like how could they be wrong? Is like not even a
Yeah.
thought in your mind.
It looks very happy and shiny on the outside, and some of it actually is. It really, there are great people, lovely people who do lovely things for others as well. Underneath, there are a vast number of rules. I can't even, if I try to put a number to it, I would say at least 100 rules that you should follow. And some of them are labeled as doctrine, some of them are just policies, or some of them used to be doctrine and now it's kind of a policy that can be shifted and maybe not followed so much or as strict as when we were growing up.
Oh my gosh, it's not even nearly as strict. I mean, most of the people in
Yeah.
Utah, I'm not trying to be gossipy, whatever. Most of the people in Utah do not wear garments. Like, and that's what I see on the internet now. It's like, if they're on vacation, they don't wear garments. If they go to the gym, they don't wear garments, which I agreed with. But like, growing up, my parents wore garments 24/7, no matter what. If we would go to the beach, that was like the only time I ever saw them not wearing garments. And
Hmm.
like, I did not miss Sunday school. I did not miss going to church ever. We just did it. We would go out of the country to Mexico on a vacation and we would go to church at those churches.
Yeah, I
Like,
remember
that's what
doing that too,
we
going
did,
on vacation and finding the nearest church so that we could all go on Sunday.
which honestly was pretty fun, but like at the same time, like, I mean, can we just like do something else? Like, I don't know. They're just, my parents are really extreme. I do believe that they are good people. I believe my mom is a very amazing person. I love my mom. We're very similar, and I don't love her because we're similar. I love her because she just is a perseverer. I'm very proud of her. And I didn't leave until I was 19, and then my mom left when she was 56. So it's been kind of like this weird thing of helping her through the process of leaving the church, which is a whole other conversation. But yeah, that's been interesting. Just the familial, I mean, everybody in my family isn't Mormon anymore besides my mom's parents. We all
Mhm.
left in different times, but my parents left and then they got divorced. And then it's not really that much of like a conglomerate anymore. It's like we're kind of all doing our own thing, which
Yeah.
is a surprisingly devastating result of leaving the church. And I think that that is the reason. I think that the trauma that all of us experienced in it was very different for each person. And we're all very, very passionate people. There just wasn't a way to figure it out, to be honest with you. So we just kind of had to be like, I can't do this. I have to go figure it out on my own. And that was also, if not equally as devastating as leaving the church, worse because I was in the church for the family. You just don't ever
Mhm.
expect that to happen.
Within the church, the reason I brought up the rule thing is because I want people to understand that there are different variances of how people practice it.
Mm.
Some families may be like, yeah, we're Mormon, but we don't really go to church every Sunday, or we don't follow all the rules, or I let my kids wear tank tops instead of covering their shoulders. And, it's like Mormon light. And a lot of people in Utah do have that approach, unless you're in specific areas like Provo, for example. But where I was from, people were a little bit more lenient because everyone's Mormon. You're not really setting an example. When I moved to Portland, it was very much all eyes on you. You have to be the example. You have to be better than you were in Utah. And I did not like that pressure because there weren't very many Mormons. And so you just had to be steadfast and hold to the rod, as they would say.
Mhm.
And so I'm pointing this out to say that not everyone who belongs to the LGS church will have this experience. However, it's important to bring this up because the way that it is set up and the way that it teaches its members to be steadfast, to follow all the rules, to be the best saint that you can be, it really does, in some cases, set you up for failure in a way that can send you spiraling and create scrupulosity, which is religious OCD, which is what we're going to get into. So, you telling us that your family was very strict with everything, you're going to every single meeting, you're going to Sunday church, you're going to Wednesday mutual, which is for young men and young girls, young men, young boys, and young girls to do their separate activities on how to become a wife.
Oh my gosh, I never even realized that.
Yeah.
They called them young men
Yeah,
and
they're
young
young.
women. This is weird.
Yeah, they're not. They're not. They're boys and
Hmm.
girls. I'm glad that you brought that up because it is important for everyone to know the level that your family was at. And I think that's why you are giving your mom so much credit because you love her so much and she's recognizing that maybe the way that she raised you wasn't particularly the best way for you, but she's moving forward. When you know better, you do better. All of that to say, your mother was very devout, and we can understand, give her the benefit of the doubt for doing the best that she can as a Mormon woman, where the expectation for perfectionism is so high for these mothers to raise their children right and to make sure that they do everything that they're supposed to, or it reflects poorly on them. So let's talk about what we came to talk about, which are the bishop's interviews. So I'm just going to talk for a little bit longer, and then I'm going to give you the floor. So bishop's interviews, where they start at 8, you have your first one to see if you're worthy to be baptized. Every 8-year-old is. It's just like formality. You go in, you answer questions. Do you believe the church is true? Yes, whatever, all that stuff. You get baptized, age of accountability for children according to the Mormon Church. And then you have subsequent interviews yearly. Now, please, if anyone knows who's just left the church, if they have changed that recently with the youth. But as far as I'm aware, you go in yearly unless you have to confess something. And they give you a list of sins, could be anything, that you need to go in and confess to your bishop one-on-one. I will caveat here, they did just change things due to a bishop who was like, hey, I don't want to do this. They excommunicated him, but then they changed a policy after saying you can have your parent in the room. That's not how it was when we were growing up. It was just you and usually a 40-plus-year-old man. So for you, Taylor, you had your interview, one of the first that you can remember, at 11 years old. And let's talk about why that was so traumatizing for you.
I didn't even realize it was traumatizing until I was 22. I had no idea. I think my brain coped with it by just saying, okay, everybody goes through this. Everybody else is doing this too. You're doing the right thing. Well, I truly believed I was doing the right thing. Not only did I think I was doing the right thing, but I thought I was being a spectacular and brave young girl. I watched pornography when I was 11. I don't remember what I watched. I don't even remember how intense, whatever. But I remember talking to a parent about it and being advised to go and confess to the bishop. Now, at the age of 26, it makes me really sick to think about. I know why my parents said that, but for me to imagine giving birth to a child and knowing them for 10 years and then advising them to go and sit alone in a room with gray-haired old man and tell them about their sex life, I cannot imagine doing that. I just can't. I'm still very numb to it. It depends on the day, but I have a very hard time validating myself that this is even a bad thing. I think my brain just is no, it's okay. It's fine. I do that with everything. I don't like confrontation. I think it's probably from the bishop's interviews that I don't like confrontation, because it was confrontation to the max. The first time I went, it was with a bishop that was way older, and I don't remember anything. I just remember the feeling I had, that I just wanted to jump out of my skin. And the guilt in the pit of my stomach, it just sunk to the floor, and it was just never ending. It just is this overwhelming feeling. I remember sitting on those couches, those really ugly floral couches in the lobbies. I don't know if they have them like that in Utah, but I just remember sitting there waiting to go into the bishop's office, probably when I was 14. The self-deprecating thoughts going through your head, or my head, it's so intense for a 14-year-old girl. It fractures you in a way. I think I started to just kind of disassociate a little bit throughout that. And then when I started meeting with this new bishop, he was a little bit younger. I would say probably 40. I don't really know. But he was older than me, a lot older. But he was young enough that there was a little bit of a camaraderie, or that's what he made me feel like. Now that I am speaking out loud, of course, there was no camaraderie. I couldn't have come up with it on my own. Old man should have shut it down, especially 14 through 18. The way it started, I had a long-term boyfriend. Well, long-term for Mormons. I think we dated for a year. And he was my best friend. And I really loved him. Maybe not in love with him, but it felt that way. It's funny because I would always term it messing up or making a mistake. And now that I've been a massage therapist for 5 years, I've gone through a lot of deconstruction. It's so weird to think of that as a mistake. And it's so weird to think that my parents didn't teach me anything. All they taught me was just what not to do.
Just abstinence only.
Yeah, they didn't teach me how to interact with a young boy. They didn't teach me how to stand up for myself, how to say no. They just said, say no. It's not that easy. Trust me, every single boyfriend I had in high school, it was like a ticking time bomb where we would get together and it would be beautiful for a few weeks, maybe a month, and then the pressuring into sex or sexual favors would begin. And I can't say it was all of them, but it was most of them. And it would get to the point where it was just like beating me down, beating me down, beating me down over months and months. And I just wanted to be loved so badly. Keep in mind, I was the third child out of four, two of three girls. I wasn't the youngest, but I wasn't the oldest girl. I was very much just in this limbo for most of my life where I really just wanted people to really like me. I got that through. I was a very good singer growing up, but that was like my little starshine thing that I had. That was basically the only way of getting admiration. And so admiration, love, approval, all of that just became like one thing. And it didn't have a word in my brain. It was just, I need this, I need this, I need this. And then, so with these boyfriends, I really was searching for that like void, or to fill that void that I felt. And it was really hard when they were pressuring me after months and months, and I felt in love with them. And we've had all of these really close moments together, especially as a 15, 16-year-old girl. It feels like you're in a movie. And it feels like the end of the world if you're going to break up with this person, especially somebody like me who doesn't feel like anybody really cares about them. Besides my older sister, we were really, 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 really close. It was really hard. And me and all of my siblings are neurodivergent on a scale. And so we had really struggled to get along with people, not to mention we were bullied a lot for being Mormon, like a lot. I got kicked out of friend groups. I had like boys dump me in front of people because I was Mormon. I got cheated on because I was Mormon. Lots of stuff. And I don't regret anything. I'm very, very, very happy about my experience and what it's taught me. But that's not to say that it's been like insanely excruciating and difficult. But to get back to the bishop, when I had that first boyfriend, we'd make mistakes. And that with that boyfriend, I want to say I wasn't coerced anything, but like it was with all of my boyfriends when I was a Mormon. It was very much so I had said no and what my boundaries were for months. And it was just pushing as much as you can just to get there. And then I'm in class on Sunday and they're telling me about this. You're on this boat with this raft with a man. And if you go over the waterfall, you fall all the way down. So you don't even want to get close to the waterfall or you're going to fall all the way down.
Oh, is that their metaphor for if you do foreplay, you're gonna have sex?
Yeah. We weren't allowed to passionately kiss. They were still using like the term necking.
Necking and petting.
I'm like, old ass men, like creepy. It's so creepy. It's so gross. But like I started going to see the bishop. I saw him once in his office. I don't really know how to describe this feeling. Maybe gamblers would kind of understand it. You kind of get this rush, kind of like when you're getting a tattoo, you're about to be in a lot of pain, but you're also going to be in a lot of relief
Mhm.
because I was already in so much pain. And I don't think I realized I was in so much pain because these boys that claimed to love me were coercing me into sex, which I didn't do. But like, like I said, like the
Covered in
raft
debt.
and sex was the waterfall. So it did feel like a life and death situation to me, to be honest with you, especially coupled with going into the bishop. And the first time that I talked to him, it was so. It wasn't really disturbing. And it was similar to my experience when I was 11. And he was like, okay, don't do this again. These are the consequences if you do it again, blah, blah, blah. Sharing, because you have to describe what you did with your boyfriend. For me, with him, it was never enough to just be like, we crossed a line. I'm sorry. He needed to hear the details about what position. Probably some of the most disturbing or the most disturbing thing was I didn't even know like what an orgasm or climax was at that age. I think it was 15 or 16. I was at his house confessing because I was very desperate. This was probably the second or third time. I already had really extreme perfectionism and people-pleasing issues because of being the third child, because I wanted attention, all of that. And so I felt like this was kind of this special thing where I'm this really brave girl being honest. Like honesty is a really confusing but also important part of my like values. I was being honest, but I was also being taken advantage of. I didn't have anything to apologize for. And if there's anything I can say to any young girls that are Mormon right now, maybe watching this, like it's okay to have sex. Obviously use protection. The best thing you can do is educate yourself as much as you can. That's all I have to say. Educate yourself as much as you can. Don't wait for other people to teach it to you. We have so many resources on the internet. And always keep in mind consent is the biggest value of having sex. If somebody ever makes you feel uncomfortable, say no and leave. You can always leave. I didn't know that was like an option. I don't know why, but I wanted these guys to love me so much that I never left. And then I got myself into really uncomfortable positions. But also keep in mind, I was also taught I was responsible for this somehow. Like, as young girls and young women, they very much teach you that if you make a mistake, it's your fault because why'd you let it get there? The men can't control themselves. Obviously, they can't
Mhm.
control themselves because I can't wear like this outfit in front of a man at church without being looked at like a whore. And like, I'm sorry, my language, but it's upsetting and it's not okay. And like the effect it's had on me, it does make me angry. It just went on for years. It went on for quite a while. And then, we became close and we would text. There was one time that I had made a mistake with it was that same boyfriend, and I was 15 years old. I remember so clearly what I looked like at this age too. I was a very thin girl. I was really thin, and which is really good in Mormonism. They love that. As much as you can look like a child is the best, which is gross. But I learned that the hard way because most of the girls in Mormonism have pretty bad eating disorders. I mean, I developed orthorexia. I was running cross country and smelling people's food and wouldn't let myself eat unless it was like a
Mm.
salad or something. And that was like obviously a coping mechanism accompanied with the scrupulosity OCD that you were talking about. I literally could not think of anything else. Like when we were at this airport going to New York, I could not try for a single second to get my brain to think of something else other than how disgusting and terrible I was. And that if I don't text this bishop and get this over with, then the whole trip's going to be ruined. All this money is wasted. And not even that, I don't know how I'm going to make it through the next 10 seconds of this emotional pain.
Can I pause and add some context for our viewers here? I think it's important to mention number one, like you were saying, the messages you're getting in quote young women's of sex is this bad, evil thing until you get married, then have all the babies. But until then, it is a sin next to murder. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not making this up. It is the sin next to murder to have sex before you're married or to be an adulterer or whatever, sexual sin. So there's that. They say that if you are sinning and you don't repent of your sins and go through the repentance process, which is one, confession, two, repentance in whatever punishment it is, whether that's not taking the sacrament, which is like communion in front of the whole ward, whether that's not being allowed to pray at church functions. They have different levels of punishments, whether it's not going to the temple. So when you're a kid, you would go and do baptisms for the dead. They would do trips to the temple, and if you weren't worthy, then you're left behind and people know that you're probably sinning. So I want people to understand that it's not that you just felt compelled to repent.
Thank
It's
you.
a very serious thing, and it's something that you are drilled into your head that if you have sinned at all, you need to go and tell the bishop, or else your slate is not wiped clean. If you were to die right then, you're not going to the top level of heaven. You are getting into the bottom levels, and you need to figure this out, which is why, for me, I still strongly believe that the mainstream Mormon church does fit the parameters of a cult, at least psychologically, because it keeps you trapped in a prison of your mind where you are self-policing. You are basically stuck in this hamster wheel of, I'm not good enough, I need to repent. Okay, I'm amazing. I'm so amazing that I'm better than everybody. And then, okay, now I'm the worst person on the planet. I need to go repent. So the guilt and the shame is so crippling. And I had to explain to people why you felt the way that you felt. And so you're at the airport, you've done this thing with your boyfriend, and you feel like God is not with you. The Holy Ghost has left you. You are not going to have a good time with your family unless you repent, but you are not near the bishop, which, by the way, texting a bishop is not something that you're really supposed to do unless you're an adult setting up a meeting for your child. Texting a child from a bishop is not allowed. It's not okay. It's not normal. Neither is going to a bishop's home as a child. That's very rare. And please correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I'm pretty sure that that is not on the table ever. You have to meet in the church building in his office. So, this relationship, you and the bishop, has been progressing to a texting basis because now you have this compulsion to repent everything, and he's wanting details. So I just want to put into perspective that at this point, he is essentially asking for child pornography over text. adult to child. It just had to lay that out in case it went over anybody's head. So please continue. You're at the airport.
Yeah, and I just remember like looking at this TV screen. I can still like see like the replay. It was like on a loop of like maybe like 10, 15 seconds, and very profound for what I was going through. But the most disgusting part is just like that it was my fault. I still right now, I still feel like it's my fault. I do. Like I know it's not, but I feel like it's my fault. And then I did something wrong and I deserved that. It just got to the point where like and I went to New York and I had texted him when I got there, which over state lines, I looked it up, is a felony. I don't have any proof of it though, 'cause so long ago. Yeah, and I felt immediately better after and I was able to enjoy my trip. But it really just is an abusive relationship. I know that after experiencing a couple of them, that it just that's what it is. I mean, the Mormon God, in my opinion, is very much an abusive father figure or husband. I know that's kind of like crazy to say, but like you do whatever I say or else I don't love you anymore, and then says that they're unconditionally loving you. I've experienced that multiple times. It just went on. It went on till I went to college and I got lots of great leadership roles for my beautiful work of being honest. I was the Young Women's President. I was top YCL for a couple years. I sang at church all the time. I volunteered in the primary. It was like everything to me. I honestly was really happy. I love community. I love people. And like the hardest thing ever was like leaving the church and like nobody reached out to me.
Yeah.
That was like caused me so like really bad abandonment issues, honestly. Like these friends that and family members, these mentors that I've had my entire life, and then I don't want to go anymore because I just can't. I just couldn't go anymore. And nobody texted me or called me.
Oh, that's so hard.
And like I like get it in a way. I understand the thought process, but I don't accept it that that's okay because I gave 110% of everything I had to that church. And it was really hard to not just spiral into a depression of like, I wasted the first fucking 18 years of my life. And all of this pain. I mean, all of that pain that I went through confessing the bishop, I was doing that so I could get a temple marriage and go on a mission. That was my goal. Obviously, that's everyone's goal because that's what they tell you your goal is. I didn't even know I could have a career or hobbies or things that I really liked, especially in my family. It was not taught to the girls that like you can be anything you want to be, get a job. It was very much so you will get married and you'll have kids. I did not have another option. And I was planning on going to BYU so I could meet a husband. Like, I hope it's not like that anymore, but like I graduated in 2017. So I was going to high school so that I could get good grades to meet a husband. That was literally my goal in life. And of course, I'm going to have terrible relationships with men then because I don't have any relationship with myself. And and that's what I was telling you is that as a massage therapist, the my biggest thing I want to say is they strip you of your bodily autonomy, your ability to do what you want with your body. Word of wisdom, masturbation, sex, wearing what you want, tattoos. I love my tattoos. It's your body, it's your life. And it's taken me, what, like 7 years to finally get to a good place where I'm like, okay, I can make this choice and I'm not just gonna like burst into flames. I'm gonna make this choice and my family's not gonna hate me forever. And you know what? Even if they do, it's still my choice. But especially going through that trauma with the bishop and any mistake that I made, I had to purge to somebody or else I am not okay. Literally and physically in any way, sense of the word, just not okay. That relationship with the bishop caused me to get into a relationship with a 26-year-old man when I was 17, who was Mormon, by the way. Don't think just because you're dating Mormons that they're good guys. Also, 3 experiences of sexual assault because I didn't know, I don't want to say how to say no, but I didn't know how to advocate for myself or be able to separate myself from a situation that gave me attention. Because that lack of love that I experienced for so long, I was just desperate. I was so desperate to not feel the way that I felt anymore. And that's how you get into really bad situations. That's how you get into really bad situations. It's not that you went to a party and you drank, and so that's why it happened to you. It happened to you because that person is a terrible person, and because you don't have the right tools because they weren't taught to you. It's not your fault.
I know that's something that you wanted to zoom in on, which is why I'm pausing you, because you had mentioned that with the abstinence only, if we can even call it education, it was also coupled with the just say no education that I grew up with too. Just say no to drugs and alcohol. Don't even touch it. If you, in my head, I feel like it was like the Mean Girls thing, but with drugs. If you do drugs, you will die. It was like, don't even try it. It's horrible. And so, with that, you're not teaching kids about the different substances that are out there. You're not teaching them
Exactly.
about moderation. You're not teaching them about what can be a safe limit. And if you try this, this is what's going to happen. If you try this is what's going to happen. It's just say no, which is really harmful when you have teenagers whose brains aren't fully developed yet, wanting to experiment naturally and being put in situations where maybe someone gives it to them and they don't even realize, you need to give kids the education other than just don't do it.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, you had mentioned to me on the phone that there were a few scenarios in which you did try some of these substances, didn't understand what that would do to you. And unfortunately, not because you did this, but unfortunately, that ended in a sexual assault situation, which I'm so sorry that happened to you. And I'm bringing this up because you mentioned the consequences of doing that and how you were blamed within the Mormon context of, well, you should have just said no. Do you want to expand on that further?
When this did happen to me, I had never had sex before. I'm not going to describe the assault in detail because it's not necessary. But I went to a college party with a friend I grew up with, and I drank a couple times, not a lot. But at this point, it was the first time I'd really felt like freedom before. It was just me and my friend. We were in a different city, and I was going to go to this party, and I was going to talk to guys, which I like, it was so bad. My parents would walk up, and if I was like sitting too close to my boyfriend, they would be like, no. And they would come up like every 15, 20 minutes. So, like, I was terrified of this. And so I was so excited that I definitely drank way too much. I drank way too much. And then also, once you start drinking, you feel very like, yeah, this is awesome. Let's keep going. It's part of the drug, the ethanol and the alcohol. It makes you want more naturally. Like, it's not like if you drink more, you're a bad person. It's just like that's how the drug works. So, of course, I didn't know my limits. I didn't know. Also, I don't think knowing your limits is very helpful in drinking. I think that practicing drinking is better. Not important. Oh, well, it is important, but not the conversation I need to have. But I blacked out maybe a couple hours in. Like, I blacked out on the party bus on the way to the bar. Oh, I wasn't even 21. No, I was drinking underage. Yeah, it was really bad. And I remember like bits and pieces. And it's really hard to not feel ashamed about how much I drink or feel ashamed about just like the feelings that I had or how like embarrassed I was. But I ended up going back to my friend's place with this guy. And keep in mind, she knew I grew up Mormon. I've known her for a while. And she knew I hadn't had sex before. It does hurt my heart to think that, like, I mean, if my close friend had never had sex before, I really don't know, think I would let her do it for the first time when she's like blackout drunk. But that wasn't the only time. And it also, like, was not the first time. And the first time was in Utah, actually, with a guy that went to one of those schools. Not the Mormon one, though. The red one.
Utes?
Yes. Yeah, I had never smoked weed like that before. I think I'd done like a little gummy or something, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's terrifying. But I was like, I wanted to be cool, and I was like freshly 19. I was like not even 19 and a half. And keep in mind, 18 and 19 is babies, okay? Like, if you're 18 or 19 right now, please do not be hard on yourself. Oh my gosh. That's a scary time. I'd never smoked out of a bong before. I now love cannabis. I love gummies. It's a very, like, beautiful part of my life that I get to kind of, like, look inward and experience my feelings in sometimes a very intense way. But at this point, I'd never been like that. And I hit the bong once, which is very funny now because I wish. I guess I call it greened out. I really do not remember much. And it was hours. I got there around 2 and I left around 9 or 10. And I don't remember much, but I do remember him, it didn't obviously, it wasn't extremely graphic, but it was bad enough that like I was telling him that I didn't know where I was. I couldn't remember what his name was, and, continued on. Luckily, it stopped. Luckily, with most of my situations, they stop before they finish. Thank God. I don't know why, but I'm very grateful for that. I just like, I can't imagine. But I mean, when I went home, I felt weird. I felt uncomfortable and terrified, but weirdly, it felt kind of similar. Like it felt violating, but I guess I didn't realize I'd been violated for so long. I didn't know that all of those boyfriends coercing me, the bishop exploiting me, it was kind of a normal feeling to me. And I think that's kind of why it can happen more to girls that have been abused and especially are very pretty and maybe shorter, or I'm a very big people pleaser. I mean, being a people pleaser is actually very dangerous. It's not just going to make your life harder, it can get you in situations that can really destroy your mental health or your physical health for a really long time.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry that that happened to you. And you had mentioned that when you had told a parent about this, do you want to talk about what the parent said?
It was my dad, because I'm not going to blame my mom for this. So actually, the story was this was after what had happened to me at the college. And that one was much more graphic than the Utah one because I lost my virginity through sexual assault with this one. Not to mention the guilt of having sex coupled
Yeah.
with the violation. It's a really devastating feeling.
Yeah.
I honestly can't even describe it. I remember driving home by myself. I was listening to Ariana Grande's Sweetener album. I've been an Ariana Grande fan forever. And I could not turn on a single song that didn't make me want to just like die. Like that's how bad it is. I really want people to know the effects of sexual assault. It it like breaks your brain. Usually your brain will say, "Okay, it wasn't that bad," which was my way of doing it, but my body was saying, "You're about to die." Like that's what it feels like. And it's annoying because the boyfriends that I had after that very rarely were able to be there for me about these attacks. It's like for most men, it's like if they didn't like hit you or if you don't have proof, then it's not that bad. But the violation is still the violation.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I remember I kissed the first time I kissed a man after the one in the college town. I got in the car and I had a huge panic attack. And it was just a peck. And I was like, what is going on? Like I've been kissing people for a long time. And I just was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna affect me for a really long time. Luckily that boyfriend was very sweet and he actually did help a lot. But after that, we were very young. Like it's insane to ask a 21-year-old dude to know how to help you with that kind of thing. And when I went to my dad about it, or my mom, because Brett Kavanaugh was getting sworn in as the, Supreme Court justice, and watching, I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, but the poor woman that was assaulted by him, which I do believe just by the way, I mean, just by intuition. I always don't have proof, but I believe it just by intuition and the way that she was talking. And I felt for her. And just that was such a disappointing moment of my life to see this person be upheld. This was before trial. So, like, I'm not trying to get political, but this specific experience of this man who was accused of sexual assault and very similar to my experience, it was really devastating and it was really triggering and I needed help. And so I had my parents come upstairs and I told them what happened. And my dad said, well, you shouldn't have been there in the first place and you shouldn't have been drinking. It's obviously not comparable, but it hurt really, 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 really bad. And I never really trusted my dad again after that.
Mhm.
And I think he just viewed me differently because in his mind I had had sex. And I think for a lot of men, they don't know how to rationalize that sexual assault can happen without someone being like violently hurt. And for him to say that, I mean, I've racked my brain trying to figure out why, besides that, like, he's just not the kind of dad that I would want. I would never allow my future husband to even, well, I would never marry someone that would even go down the road of possibly thinking something like that. But it was equally devastating. I don't want to say equally, but it was extremely devastating after that because that was such a cry for help. And it's just like another experience of me being like, well, no one really cares. And also it's your fault
Yeah.
and you should feel bad.
It's just another level of shame. You go to them for help and you're given shame in return instead of actual help or therapy or resources. Did either of them tell you to repent for that?
No, but I ended up trying to. Out of like desperation, I didn't tell anyone. That bishop luckily was a pretty good guy. And he was like, I do not have the advice to give to you for this, and I think you should probably talk to a professional. And I don't think you should. I don't. He didn't say I shouldn't feel bad, and like he didn't really say that I didn't make a mistake or that it wasn't my fault. But he just was like, I don't know how to deal with this. I was really sad because it like broke something in me with Mormonism because at that point, yes, I was drinking and I was like half in, half out, but this was kind of like a Hail Mary. Like maybe if like God really is here, he'll speak through his mouthpiece and give me
Yeah.
what I need, which is love.
Yeah.
And this man couldn't even say like, that's so devastating. I'm so sorry that happened to you. He didn't give me really anything. And I mean, how is he supposed to?
Yeah.
He's a dude.
A little bit more context here as well. For those who aren't familiar, Mormon bishops are not trained in any sort of ecclesiastical manner. They are just chosen pretty much at random from somebody else in the congregation in the ward. So they could be your local farmer, they could be your local dentist, they could be really anybody who probably doesn't have any experience with family therapy or trauma responding or helping in a way that they need to help their congregation. So, on one hand, I think it's good that he's like, I'm not qualified for this. On the
Totally.
other hand, he should have found resources for you or people who were qualified, or he should have had a conversation with your parents. And I get that you're going to him. This is your last chance. You've already gone to your parents and you didn't get any support. And you're like, okay, maybe if I go to the bishop, I'll get support. And you didn't get it there. So now it's just, I'm sure this overwhelming feeling of nobody can help me and or nobody wants to help me. I'm helpless and it was my fault.
I definitely feel like I deserved it. No, I feel like I deserved it. I felt like it was God's punishing me for what I did.
Mm.
And that's definitely how I felt. I think it was my brain's way of like rationalizing and also just the brainwashing of how I grew up that it was my fault. And my dad saying that, I believed him. As much as my body was like angry and like, girl, what? No. The brainwashing is so intense. You like deconstructing. I've been deconstructing for 7 years, and I'm still like very Mormon coded in some ways in my thought
Mhm.
process, obviously not in my lifestyle in any way. I try not to think about this stuff, to be honest with you. Like, this is the most in depth I talked about it, besides maybe with my sister.
Yeah.
I don't know what I want to say, but like, it was really upsetting. But I also felt like I'd been torturing myself for so long. It kind of felt like natural in a way or comfortable to just be like, well, you're a terrible person. Like, why are you surprised? You know, it's been a long process of going to college, dropping out of college, losing friends, making friends, dating this guy, not this guy, coming out as bisexual, and then Mormons trying to reach out to me about coming back to church, but nobody reaches out to me to be like, are you okay? I miss you. How does nobody miss me? That hurts so bad. That like really, really, really broke a part of my self-esteem that nobody missed me. I missed them. And so it kind of made me feel like this invisible person. But I knew that they were talking about me and my family. I mean, I talked to my friends that I've had a friend that left the church since then. She was like, yeah, everyone in the ward was talking about it. And I was like, I'm not surprised. Talking about us leaving the church, talking about everybody in my family getting divorced. It's somebody else's drama. And to me, it's just the most catastrophic thing that's ever happened to me. Leaving the church, my family getting separated, and like both my older siblings were married. There's 3 divorces in my nuclear family. It's been really hard. And it's only been 6 years of that. It was 6 straight years of just like complete chaos. And then the 5 years before that were very much abusive. And so I'm finally in a healing era. I was like, people would talk about healing for so long, and I was like, yeah, 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 maybe for you. But like, it is possible. It is possible. And I'm actually getting to the point where I wake up and I feel kind of happy. If I can be like really brutally honest about my mental health and how I've felt for the past 6 years, was not a single day that I woke up and I felt good.
Yeah.
Not a single day.
Something that I could put words to that I think you were talking about earlier about how you felt like you were on top of the world when you had these callings and you're confessing and to me that's just the illusion of choice of I'm choosing the right even though you really felt compelled to
Yeah.
do what you were doing. And I think the last piece that I want to mention before we talk about your mission is that you did develop scrupulosity, religious OCD, where you felt just this compulsive need to repent or to confess. And the way that your bishop handled that blew my mind. So let's talk about that for a second.
He's trying to break all the records. Keep in mind with the OCD, like just to kind of like show you how bad it was, there was one day where I was at UVU and I had a boyfriend and love that guy. You know who you are. And I think he like touched my butt and it was so brief. It was so brief. And I woke up the next morning and I called my mom. I was in the bathroom at school having one of the worst panic attacks I've ever had in my life. And that's saying something. And it was over my boyfriend, who I knew very well, touching my butt. I thought I was going to die. Like, I really thought I was going to die. My body thought I was going to die. But that's over years and years and years of being taught that you are worthless if you keep doing this. And so my brain's like, why do you keep doing this? You know not to do it, so why do you keep doing it? Well, the why is I'm a human being. They start you off by saying the natural man is an enemy to God, and that is where they get you. That's where they get you. And then you never trust yourself again, and you also always hate yourself, accompanied with it. You don't trust yourself and you hate yourself because your natural instincts are somehow bad. I really would love to go to church and see what they still teach this, but basically they teach you this at a very young age. I would say probably like 10 or 11, maybe 12. Maybe they wait until you go to like, I can't even remember what it's called.
Mutual, young men's, young women's.
Yeah, that. Maybe they wait until then to really tell you about that because it's quite disturbing if I'm being honest with you. Like, what kind of kid is going to hear that and be like, so you hate me? Like, what? And it's just like a way to get you separated from your instincts. And I can explain it in a very, very particular way. I remember I was probably 15 or 16, and we were in, like, the young women would get to go to the Relief Society sometimes. It was like this special day where you get to sit with your mom and you like hold hands. You talk about being a woman, which is a very nice experience. If I'm being honest with you, those are some good memories. But I remember one lady being like, well, I know that I need to repent when I go to read the scriptures and I feel a pit in my stomach. And for me, my anxiety and my guilt has always been a pit in my stomach. And I always felt like that, no matter what I did. Unless I had just confessed. Because I would actually sit there and I would rack my brain on any possible thing I could have done possibly that even if I didn't remember it. And I swear sometimes I would just make stuff up because I was scared that if I had forgotten it, I would have to go and confess again. And now this was all for nothing. And then I had to sit in extreme pain for like at least 2 to 3 hours before I can see the bishop. I mean, it was like, it was just like, it's crazy.
So what did your bishop tell you when you said you had been diagnosed with OCD?
I told him, hey, I got diagnosed with OCD. What do you think? Like, they're saying like this could be like a bad situation. And he was like, no, like this is really good because now you're not going to make as many mistakes and like basically you're not going to like hurt God as much. There's some people have this weird opinion that like if you sin, you're adding to Jesus's pain. I don't understand how their time magic works or whatever, but like, okay. But I mean, as a young girl, I was just trying to absorb everything I could to get the best outcome. I mean, that's very neurodivergent of me, but like very much so. Like I wanted to do everything right because they said if I do everything right, then I get the best outcome. Why wouldn't I do everything right? It's like 1 + 1 = 2. But I was just a child and I didn't know. But it has been interesting, like watching my parents leave, you know, because you have your Mormon you and then you have your real you. It's interesting seeing who they both have like really turned out to be. And my mom, we're just like kind of kindred spirits, to be honest with you. And as much as like I'm so grateful I get to be there for her to like help her through it, I'm also really angry because I didn't have anybody to help me through it. And I was in extreme pain for a very long time. I'm just kind of glad that we're getting through that. Like if you're in this phase where you're like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be happy again, keep trying. I felt that way for such a long time. And when I finally realized that like I could say no to people, even my family that like claims to love me, what I realized is that people will always claim to love you. And it's your responsibility to find out if their actions meet the words, which sucks, but like people just say stuff. It's very easy to talk. And it's also easy to hang out. But is it easy to make you dinner when you're sick? Is it easy to take you to this thing? Is it easy to understand when you can't come over?
Yeah.
those kind of things. And like I've only met maybe one or two, maybe three people like that in quite a long time. My boyfriend is deployed in South Korea right now, 9 months. So quite a long time. But he sent me a promise ring, which is very Mormon of him, but it's so cute. I love it.
Okay, we're talking about finding out who your friends are, really dropping your entire community when you leave the church. Let's talk about that moment when you realized you could no longer be a part of the church. Did this happen when you were on your mission?
Yes. Because of my OCD, I had to go on like a local mission. It was only 3 months or so. And they don't send you the MTC. And I did something very brave is that I did not keep it a secret, which I think is very interesting that that was an option because I will never understand it's you think it's black and white honesty until it's not. And but I was like, no, I'm gonna tell everyone. Like, why wouldn't I share this? This is my ward family. And as I've grown up, I realized family means something different to every single person. But I thought I was very brave for sharing that I had mental health issues and I was struggling. And so I was sent to Fort Worth from Houston. If you don't know anything about Texas, it's like it's 4 hours away, but like Texas is gigantic. So like it's the same state. It very much like, and if you're from Texas, it's like, oh, okay, you're just going to Dallas. It's like, okay, everyone else is going to Colombia and France and all this stuff. And I had been really into languages growing up. I took lots of language classes. So I was devastated. I really was. I'm so proud of myself because I always find a way to take a positive spin on it. I was like, you know what? Maybe there's other people struggling with their mental health. So if I go and share my honest and vulnerable experience, then maybe I can help somebody. Anyway, I went on my mission. And like just from the moment I left my parents, well, we didn't even talk about the temple. I did go through the temple and I gotten down. And that was like the worst, weird, crazy, strange thing that's ever happened to me.
Interesting.
Not worse, but it is the strangest experience of my life.
I'm saying interesting because you were so devout and so into it and so by the book, but the temple still scared the crap out of you.
I wasn't scared until we started putting the stuff on.
Like the veil and the sashes and stuff.
They don't have the veil anymore, do they?
They don't?
I heard that they don't. I don't know if that's true. They don't make you say I obey my husband anymore, is what I
Right. They
heard.
took that out.
The outfit, the whole thing is just weird, and then everyone's walking around in their outfits. You feel like you're in a fucking like alternate dimension. And I'm sorry, but I grew up with the internet for like 5 years at least. And I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I can be weird, and I've been a peculiar people my whole life, but this is psychotic. Like, I felt so uncomfortable, and I really wanted to leave. But like my whole family had flown out to go and like go through the endowment process with me. Everybody. What am I gonna do? Walk out? That would
Yeah.
be very brave young girl of me, but not in brave in Mormonism. In Mormonism, that would have made me the biggest heathen, terrible person that's ever existed. I'd
More
never even
shame.
heard of anyone doing that. But yeah, I hated it. And I only went twice. And the second time I hated it even more. I hate touching people's hands through the veil and I can't see their face. That's so disturbing to me. Like, and then the Freemason signs, and just like, why are we sitting there watching a movie? I thought this was supposed to be some beautiful experience, or I learned something new, and we're sitting here watching a movie about Adam and Eve that I knew about this my whole life. That was so annoying to me. I said I did
Yeah.
all of this for literally nothing, but to be like freaked out in some really expensive building.
Growing up Mormon, the entire buildup is going to that temple. You have to be worthy enough. You got to follow the rules. You got to repent enough to get to the temple. As kids, it's, I love to see the temple. I'm going there someday. It's like a whole song that you sing since you're 3.
I know all of the words.
When you get to the temple, it's like, I'm sorry, what now? Like you're saying, I never went. But when I saw the footage, I was like, sorry, what now?
Yeah.
So it's shocking because they don't prepare you for it.
And they explain it like you're going to heaven or something, or Six Flags at least. But no, you just sit there and it's really boring. You can't talk to each other. And then you finally get to go in the celestial room and everything's white. Okay, I already knew that. So that's it? So I just did a handshake and went inside and then committed to God that I would never have sex with anybody unless I'm married to them or else I'll be gonna die. Like, okay, they don't do that anymore. But I knew about it.
Now you're going to your mission. You get
Yes.
there. Are you excited to be on the mission?
I was so dreadfully nervous. I did not want to go on a mission. And that is how strong the brainwashing was, at least for my family and specifically me. I was the most devout out of all of my siblings. I think because it was my way of getting attention. I was extremely committed. And I was like, I'm willing to go through any amount of pain for Jesus. Are you kidding me? Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I've done everything for years to get to this point. I'm not going to give up now. You know, I had a really sweet companion. She's a sweet girl. There's nothing wrong with the experience. It was just like all of this buildup, and especially for someone with ADHD, very dopamine driven brain, very like next thing, what's the next thing? I'm excited to do something. It was extremely mundane. I don't know how my brother did 2 years of it, to be honest with you. Good for him, but like also not. I'm sure it really affected him. Spoiler alert, I left on day 3 because on the second night, we went to a Somali refugee family, like their house that they were staying at. I don't even think it was their house, it was like government housing. And like even me at 19, I guess I knew enough to know like what that meant. We sat there and they were sharing with us. And I think because maybe I grew up in Texas and this girl's from Utah, so I don't know. But like I spent a lot of time around non-Mormon people, most of my time with non-Mormon people. And, you know, they were sharing their Bible stories, cute little picture books. So there's a huge language barrier. She really just starts laying it on thick with the Mormonism. And for me, it had always been such a really personal and spiritual thing. And I guess I never envisioned missions to be like this. I thought it'd be more of a slow burn. You make a relationship, you teach them about it, and if they like it, they choose it. If they don't, cool. Maybe we can be friends. I don't know. We were there for 30 minutes, and then she's asking them if they want to get baptized.
So it felt really salesy.
And this was such a shelf break for me. And then I asked her about it later, and she was like, no, they tell you to do that. They want us to do that on the first session. I was just like, what? First of all, these people are extremely vulnerable right now. And like, I was barely an adult and I could be aware of that. And I was like, that's not right. These people are vulnerable and they're just looking for some sort of comfort in God. The least we can do is just share a nice evening with them and then be like, hey, we'll come back another time. And then we can share more. But I liked the human sharing. And that's what my experience with church had kind of been with my non-Mormon friends is we would just talk about it. And then if they didn't like it, they're like, okay. And then I was like, okay, still love you. I was really upset. And like, how could you, it felt like manipulation to me. How could you ask these people such an insane, huge commitment when they don't even understand what they're getting themselves into? For to me, it was really manipulative and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what am I doing here? I was like, I can't do that again. I really couldn't do it again. I'm very based in authenticity. So if I find out something isn't true, I cannot do it anymore. Or if I see something and I do not like that, or I feel like it's being dishonest, that's what I felt like it was. I was like, this is dishonest to try to convince these people to join the church for what? They don't even have any money. This isn't even their house. So you want to take 10% of their income that is probably barely anything and is given to them by the government for what? So you can build another temple in Missouri City? Sorry, that's in Texas. The plot was completely lost to me. If these are all God's children, we're all individuals and we all matter, why are we trying to convince people that that's the truth? Shouldn't it just be true? Shouldn't you feel the conviction? I was really angry and I was so confused because, like, I really believed this. I always had. I had always really believed it. And that just broke something in me where I saw these people and they were so sweet and kind and excited to share their love for God. And I felt like she just corrupted it.
No.
I felt like it was a huge consent violation. So I called my mom the next day when my companion was in the shower, which is the only alone time you get, by the way. Which, like, I knew that, but then having it actually happen to you, you're like, oh, this is the only alone time I get. And I'm an extrovert. And I was like, I can't do this for another year and a half. I will not be able to do it. Also, I don't want to. If I don't want to do it, I don't have to. I'm going home. So I called my mom and I knew what everyone was going to say. And I just did not care. Like, the pros outweigh the cons. I was like, okay, so I get to be this indentured servant to the Mormon church where my parents pay for all of this just so that I can give them free labor and try to convince people of their church so that people pay them 10% of their income. I don't know. I think I'm going to go home. So I said a prayer. I remember looking at a picture of Jesus and I said a prayer. I was like, is it okay if I go home? I usually get some sort of confirmation bias answer. I did not feel a thing. So I called my mom. I was like, you need to come and pick me up right now. Like I said, 4 hours drive. And I was like, come and get me right now. And they didn't. They put me on a plane. Actually, that's so hurtful. I'm really sad about that. I really needed to hug my mom because I was terrified. It was scary. Like I felt I'd never been so alone in my life. And I was on this phone that like was this Android. I'm not trying to be annoying, but like I've always had an Apple phone. Everything's different. And I'm trying to be this Facebook like missionary. And I don't like social media. Like I'll use it for certain things, but definitely not to sell a church. It was so disappointing to me. I was like, so we're not even doing the human connection thing anymore. You guys are just trying to get as many followers as you possibly can. And it was just gross. I was grossed out. And I was like, this has been this most sacred thing in my entire life. Or so I was told. And now I'm here just being like this like helpmate for these like very rich people. Like, let's not get it wrong. Somebody owns the money. Somebody's got it, and it's a lot. And so, yeah, I got on a plane and I went home and I moved back to Utah because I was going to school there before I went on my mission. And that was a terrible choice. But I didn't know what I wanted. And I thought I was just going to be like a progressive Mormon, which I hear a lot these days. And I'm like, good luck. Like the cognitive dissonance, it becomes so extreme if you're truly honest. If you're truly honest about the ethics of the church, your brain is not going to be able to stay in that situation. And I couldn't. And I, tried cannabis and I tried drinking, which I like, I feel bad for, but I don't actually still, like, I still have that weird shame in my chest right here. But like, I don't feel bad because like, I'm just one person. Like, why is it that important? And that's another part of egotistical Mormonism I've found is like, why do you want to live forever? I was so scared of dying after I left the church. Now I don't really care because like I'm just glad that I'm alive. It's an insane, crazy, crazy anomaly that we're here. I don't know, this is off topic, but I spent a long time trying to figure out like, okay, what now? What do I believe? And that was
Mhm.
really terrifying for me. It sent me down lots of different thought processes, which now I'm very grateful for because I really got to use all of my brain and my curiosity, even though it was really devastating. I feel like it made me much more empathetic to people. And not even that, like I finally got to let go of this idea that I was this really important person that was like going to change the world or something, or God's favorite, or like I don't even know. But I just like I wasn't doing the right thing anymore. And it kind of broke something in me. I mean, I obviously felt terrible about myself in a whole new way. I ended up shaving my head, but not like Britney Spears. It was a pandemic, and I was like, if I'm going to do it anytime, it better be right now. I actually really liked it. But my mom freaked out. She was like, why would you ever cut your hair off? And I was like, it's a haircut, mom. Boys get this haircut all the time. What's the big deal? Everyone hated it. But it was a good lesson of like how gender norms are so ridiculous. It's a haircut. You're going to be okay.
Yeah, I think it's just about taking back your freedom and your sovereignty and making a choice because you want to. And that's it. There's no asking for permission. And it's a scary place to be when you realize you can do whatever you want without consequence to some degree. Of course, there are always going to be consequences if you're trying to hurt somebody or yourself. But what I'm saying is, you don't have to go repent to somebody. You're not being held accountable by a religious leader who is telling you that you're wrong or bad or at fault for something that wasn't your fault, and you can just be yourself. So, with this deconstruction, you said it's been 7 years. Do you feel like the religious OCD, the scrupulosity, has gotten better? I know that OCD tends to take a lot of different types of therapy to help alleviate, if at all, some of those tendencies, but dropping that incessant need for repentance or confession, have you found that it has lightened up in any way?
I think it's a little bit complicated because I think my OCD was very much a trauma response and a way of coping with the situation that I was going through. And that if I tortured myself enough to not make a mistake, then it wouldn't happen. That was kind of like my thought process. And then if I do, I have to go confess. So it's kind of like snowballed into that. And I don't know if I naturally, like genetically have OCD. I do think that the predisposition probably runs in my family on my mom's side, like perfectionism. But it's hard to say because women are just socialized so intensely that I don't even know. I'm not sure if it's a trauma response coping mechanism. But It kind of like transitioned after I left the church because I didn't have anyone to like purge my sins to. I became extremely codependent with my boyfriends though.
Mm,
And that's something that I've seen a lot with people that have experienced a lot of trauma. They always are searching for outside like solutions to the inside problem. That's also an Alcoholics Anonymous thing, which I have tried out. I've gone through lots of different phases of everything, but that codependency, you think somebody is going to make you happy, nobody is going to make you happy. My boyfriend makes me very happy, but I would still be miserable if I didn't figure this out on my own. Because like nobody's coming to save you, nobody's coming to fix you. Maybe nobody is even going to help you. That's my experience. I was completely alone. I had my older sister, but we were in the same boat. We didn't know what the hell we were doing, and we were terrified and we were scrambling. We both came out the other side, and she's doing very well. I'm finally becoming very happy. But the biggest thing that I had to break afterwards was my issue with codependency because I didn't understand the puzzle very well. It's different for every person. But mine was very much attached to needing approval in my
yeah.
relationship with my father, my relationship with the bishop, any male figure or authority figure in the church. I am absolutely, even to this day, terrified of getting in trouble. It's so scary. I don't like going to the grocery store because I don't want to stand in someone's way and then they're going to yell at me, or I don't even know. But I'm terrified of confrontation and getting in trouble. So that kind of leads to needing like a companion to approve of you all the time, or at least a best friend to approve of you all the time. Keep in mind, I didn't even know how to make any sort of like personal decision at this point. I was supposed to be a wife and a mom. I didn't know how to make actual choices and smart choices. I had to figure this out very quickly in my early 20s, or else I was going to be like homeless or something. But honestly, going to massage school and becoming a massage therapist, I think saved me.
Yeah.
It like kind of became my new like dogma in a way. And I'm not super woo woo. I'm actually much more science based, but like learning about anatomy and physiology, like pathology, traditional Chinese medicine, all these different things, and really getting into my body, which I had never done before because I had only used exercise as like self harm and like trying to be skinny. This was a totally new thing I'd never experienced. And that ability to change people's day, really impact them, it got me through so much. It's taught me so much. I've been able to, because of my ADHD, I do not like to sit still. And sitting with it is really hard for me. So being able to move and focus on somebody else, I'm kind of able to process everything a little bit more in the back. And just like finally understanding that everybody deserves to be treated with kindness and compassion, and that I wasn't. I really thought I was. And it's hard to not see your parents as perfect people. I mean, I always loved them. That's not going to go anywhere. But it's like a whole thing of like your parents are just people, you're just people. Also, nobody's in charge. Like once you leave the church, that was really hard for me. I was like, where are the adults in the room?
That's what I was gonna
Nobody
say.
knows.
When you're talking about the codependency, it's just a really common issue, and I'm not a therapist, but I would say that it's related because when you're in a high control group, you give your power away. Someone says that something's wrong with you and you go, "Oh, fix me. How can you fix me?" And so you're needing that constant sense like, "Did you fix me yet? Okay, am I a good person yet? Okay, I'm worthy." And then when you don't have that, like you said, giving it away to your boyfriend, "Am I good enough to be loved? Am I good enough? Am I okay? Am I still lovable? Am I still worthy?" Okay, great. And so taking back that power and understanding I am lovable, I am worthy, I am everything that I need to be because I'm choosing that. It's such a beautiful place to be. And it does take a while. It's not flip of the switch. Oh, okay, I'll just take my power back. It's monitoring your thoughts in a way, not in a scrupulosity way, but in a way that's, oh, that's interesting that I had that thought about myself that was maybe self deprecating. Maybe I'll reframe it. And just noticing those little things over time and reframing over time will rewire your brain in a way that you don't need another person to give you that validation. Validation is great, everyone loves it, but we can't be reliant on it, or else, yes, we become people pleasers. We can be taken advantage of. And so that individual sovereignty is so important. And I'm so glad that you found a piece of that with your massage therapy and that
Yes.
you're doing better now and that you're still on the path to deconstructing. You're helping your mother deconstruct. That's a big deal. And
Yeah.
congrats to her for also being open to doing that because not many parents are.
She is very willing to self-reflect. She's always been like that. It's just very takes accountability, which I think are two very important qualities in a person. And she's so smart. I love her. She's amazing. And raising 4 kids kind of by herself, because a lot of Mormon moms kind of raise the kids by themselves. It's impossible for like a mom of 4 doing it by herself, and then to have like the money held over your head all the time of like, well, I'm going to work. I'm the one supporting all these people. And your mom's like, okay, well, I'm literally raising 4 kids and they're all under like 14 right now.
Yeah.
That's a full-time job. If anything, that's more than a full-time job. And then it's still never enough, because that's very like, I don't think it's most like husbands in Mormon church, but it's very misogynist to be like, well, I'm the one that brings home the money, so I'm the one that really matters. It's like, so you really don't value your family in any way, do you? Like, are you appreciative of for just being here and loving you? Is it even enough? And then to have that money constantly held over your head until you're even going to college, it's just like, I would have preferred to be poor, honestly, without all of this stress about not being spoiled or living up to the expectations because I had all of the resources. It's like I had all the resources, but I also experienced a lot of really difficult situations. So,
Well, I'm so glad you're doing better now. So I need your Linda listen moment, sassy statement, or something inspirational, whatever you choose.
honestly, just do whatever you want to do. And you're not a bad person. No amount of someone's validation is ever going to fix that deficiency of self-love, because it has to come with from within. Because at the end of the day, you could break up. At the end of the day, your family could break up, or people could die. It happens every day. You are going to have to be with yourself always. Try your best to make it comfortable, and do not feel guilty for not torturing yourself or using self-deprecating language, because it scientifically will kill you in the long run. You'll get high blood pressure or cancer. It's really bad for you.
So love yourself and follow what makes you happy without
Yeah,
hurting anybody. Had to add that in there.
exactly.
Yeah, so thank you so much for coming on and sharing, Taylor. I really appreciate you being vulnerable and willing to share your story. Do you have any other final thoughts, and where can people find you?
I have a business Instagram for my massage therapy. It is a female only, like women only, non-binary, like um it's very focused on the female body, post prenatal, postnatal, based in Houston, and my Instagram is Taylor Made Massage. Taylor Made like the golf brand, MAYDE.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
This was awesome. This was very healing. Thank you so much.
Good. You're welcome. Guys, if you're listening, leave those words of support and encouragement for Taylor. It means so much to our guests, and we have such an amazing community. I love seeing all those positive comments. Interacting with the post in any way will help boost the video so more people can see it. Sharing, of course, also helps. If you want to support further, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/cults to consciousness. We have a website, cultstoconsciousness.com, with some merch under the merch tab, and we're going to Mexico. If you guys want to come with, we have a few spots left at a discounted rate. Make sure you click the link in our description to see all the itinerary, the things, the activities we're going to be doing. It's at the end of October. We're so excited. And if you like this video, I'll link 2 more down here below. And until next time, follow your highest excitement, be conscious, and be well.